Our civilization is experiencing a transformation. We've gone from the old days of literally hard labors, right? And whatever version of history we've been taught, right? There's some awareness that for a long time, we were relying on physical strength, physical energy, right? And then fast forward, all of a sudden, we went from horses to cars during Industrial Revolution, right? And then all of a sudden, look at us now, right? AI, quantum computing. It's going to defy physical effort. And our society and technology is moving that way. It's a sign of our mind actually collectively upgrading. But the problem is, this collective upgrade does not mean the individual's lives are going to improve if we're not choosing individually to upgrade. What this really means is the wealthy are going to get wealthier. Those of us who don't upgrade our minds, AI will outpace us.
Go ahead.
So the trick is
Yeah.
start designing when life is great, which goes against what most people subconsciously would do. They'd be like, my life is fine. Why would I do anything? But that's what separates the real winners versus those who have, actually, let me be more clear. That's what separates people who have generational wealth and legacy versus, I'm going to use that very offensive term, the peasants. And this is not like, I'm not degrading someone. It's just their wealth will go as they go into their grave.
Welcome to another episode of Stroke of Success Podcast. It's your favorite host, KB. Today's guest is someone super, super special. For me, at least, the gentleman, friend of me, in my opinion, he's probably one of the geniuses in self-development mindset, human performance world. I came across his profile. It's interesting enough. I was watching John Madison talk about his journey to success. John Madison from Superhuman. And he often referenced my guest in front of me, how he was the one who was able to help John tap into his mindset and take out those blocks that we all have. John Madison went from ex-NFL player to a gym owner, going out of business, and now owning a company worth $52 million. So I had to put the work in and get in contact with my friend here. And finally, in front of me, I have William Lamb from Upgrade.
Happy to be here, man.
My friend, you could buy. Today is one of those days. I've been following John and Nina. My wife and I have a company as well, so we find them a lot of inspiration. But you, my friend, I was returning from Paris with my family from a holiday, and my laptop, I was watching your interview with my wife, turned around, like, taking notes. What you're teaching, in my opinion, it should be taught in all the schools around the world. I'll tell you why. I come from a divorced family. My mom, single mom, poor, one-bedroom apartment this size of this corner. And I was often taught money's not enough. Money will not be easy. We don't have skin colors that the white people do. Limitations. Then I had a stroke that almost took me out, 1 week coma. And after that, I had to learn how to walk and talk again. Again, limitations. Luckily, I found self-development, Tony Robbins, and all these gurus, and got myself out of it. But if I had your information, if all the people out there had your information, where would the world be right now? Thank you for doing what you're doing. Upgrade is changing people's life. Just want to have you sit here with me, have a conversation. Where you come from, how'd you come to this point, how you discovered this art, this science you're teaching, and what's the future looking like?
That's a loaded question, my friend.
Unpack it one by one.
So it all started when my grandfather got married, and he was a wealthy merchant. 11 days later, he went to another country. This was during World War II. And he couldn't return home for 11 years. During those 11 years, they lost everything. His wife didn't know if he was alive or not, but she waited for him. Long story short, he managed to return. He escaped. And when he got home, they finally started having children. And my father was the last one that they actually had. Now imagine growing up in a household where they had everything, but then they had nothing. Full set of trauma from wartime. And who knows what happened during those 11 years. Lots. And then having that separation of family between husband and wife. And, well, it's not just grieving that happened during those 11 years. It's not knowing what happened. It's the unknown, right? So all of that compounded, being taught in the environment, whether consciously or subconsciously. So my father grew up in an environment where creating success equals loss, equals separation, equals trauma. So I saw him all the way from when he was in his, late 20s building, because I was quite consciously aware of what my parents were doing. And in his late 20s all the way, and of course probably prior, but I wasn't there to watch, all the way to his 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, he would try to build something, keyword being try, and then he would somehow subconsciously loop back to failing. But it's not failing because of intelligence, because my father's a very intelligent guy. It's not failing because he's lacking, understanding of how the world works or relationships. He was very good with genuinely building relationships. So I was always curious, what really caused my father to fail? And it goes back to ancestral programming. And so a simple overlay to answering what you're saying is, as I witness all of this, I'm like, I'm also the product of these generational programming that goes way beyond these last 3 generations. They're a lot more than what I just shared now. And then think about how many wars occurred in the last few hundred years, right? Because in just a few hundred years, we have had thousands of ancestors in order to make one of us. So all of their programming could be passed down one way or another, dinner table conversations or otherwise. So all of that together, I'm like, wow, there's got to be a solution that can help people wipe clean the hard drive of trauma and problems and programmatic behaviors and patterns. And I looked, there were a lot of fragmented solutions. There are a lot of solutions that seem to solve one thing. Maybe it's removing anger. Another one might be helping someone cope with depression. Another one might be like, oh, here's how you get motivated. Most of them were not a complete operating system. They were like little apps that were built on top of these outdated operating systems. So imagine this. Let's say someone has this beautiful thing they want to install. Maybe it's a motivation piece. Maybe it's a new goal. Someone want to achieve something their family has never done. But then they have thousands of programs coming from their family, from their environment, from their upbringing, like you said, limits, right? That does not get along with this new program of success. These thousands of programs would conflict with this new program, and this would just disappear. All of a sudden, that person returns to being the same. That's why people can go to seminars, they can go to different trainings, they can go self-develop, they can read books, they can do all kinds of things, but then a week later, they're the same person. Now, in my struggles of building a startup myself, years ago, I was like, oh man, I'm repeating the same mistakes my family did. How can I resolve this for good? Now, the same thing that we were doing before, if I kept doing them, I'm not going to solve it because I was only aware of the solutions that I knew that didn't work. I needed something different. So I started investing in myself, but I wasn't just like, oh, here's a few $100 or here's a bunch of books. I was like, how can I out-invest not only other people, not only like my colleagues or competitors or anyone I knew, but how could I out-invest myself? outrageously. Because look, people can argue that we're going to live forever with the technology, advancements, medical, AI, quantum computing. We can live for a long time. Who knows, right? That'd be great. That being said, we still only got one life, however long it is. And I was like, if I'm not willing to bet on myself, who's going to bet on myself? Who, right? So I'm like, okay, the credit system, this is not financial advice, but the credit system, the financial system is there for those who are willing to make bets, who want leverage, who will leverage other people's money, time, whatever, to accomplish something that one person cannot do alone by themselves, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm going to leverage credit. I literally took everything I had, and I sold stuff too, so I could pay off my credit and invest it in myself. Because think about this, right? If you meet someone who really knows their stuff, they likely won't share all of their secrets, right? But then even if they do, our brains will filter out anything that doesn't match with our system. So the best way to do it is to go from one person, and if they don't have a system, right, to another person, and then gather them and observe the pattern, and then break down the pattern, install them piece by piece, test them, just like a piece of software, and then see how they integrate. So in simpler words, I started doing that. I was like, how can I integrate these pieces that seem to work really well on their own into a complete operating system that can work for me? And during that time, I ran out of money. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start charging by sharing this, because then I can reinvest into buying more certainty, buying more understanding, and really like putting these pieces together. So over the last decade, about a decade now, I was hyper focused on gathering these pieces, putting them together, and then testing them. But then this is the game-changing piece. And I know this is a long answer, but I'll say this last piece.
Go for it.
The most game-changing piece was identifying who are the people, the families, the groups that have already systems figured out that I can download, solve their bugs, kind of like a programmer, go and look at a already working piece of software, and then, hey, let me improve it, optimize it. And then all of a sudden they exponentially, they get their results exponentially greater. And then they refer their friends. And their friends have the money to pay for it. And their friends have their money to pay for it. So I chose a more elite clientele because with what they knew already that worked, I was able to build an infrastructure that worked better than if I, for lack of better terms, working with normal middle class. And I came from lower class income, coming, with my family and where they were. So I was like, I'm not going to do that for the middle class because I don't really need to upgrade from lower class to middle class. I'm interested in going all the way to the top. How are empires built? How do they stay empires? So, yeah, in summary, I took these different pieces from the most successful, and they don't have to be necessarily like, oh, super successful financially. However, you look at different industries, different people, take the best of the best in what they do, and some of them are incredibly wealthy, and then you observe their pattern, then you have a mathematical formula. And with that formula, if you can now go and apply it for someone, and they are able to see it work, well, that's how we began to work with people like John, Nineveh, and other wonderful people like them. And as you apply that, you see it work, you also realize, here's how I can improve it. But then the final step is, how do we give this to the right people in the world so that the world truly becomes a better place? So it's been a strategic mission of, I need this knowledge, and I want to get paid to find out what this knowledge is, and aggregate them, integrate them, and then I sell this knowledge to continue to improve it and test it, because I'm really testing it and selling it. And then I sold it because the test worked. And then now we have a version that's truly, I would say, perfected.
Wow, my friend, I like I said, I haven't bought your course yet or your membership, your platform, but just by your YouTube interviews and your podcast, your one-on-one podcast you do every week, I've learned so much the last 3-4 months. Two questions. I'll get to the second question in a second.
Yeah.
You did this to get your wife. How to find your wife. Now, before you get into that, is there any spiritual aspect to this formula? Like, what got me, and you share with the story how you found your wife, but she left a marriage or a future marriage, right?
Oh yeah, she was engaged. She wasn't married.
But William, I don't understand. I can't process that. You did this calculation on Excel sheet. Correct me if I'm wrong. Share the story. How'd you come to your wife?
So I was in a training that I couldn't afford, and they asked me, "What's the one thing that will make this investment the greatest investment of all time?" And I know that what they meant, like, it wasn't a financial performance promise. I was like, well, I'd love to make more money. They're like, but that's not really the most important thing on your mind right now, is it? They saw right through that. And I'm like, you're right. They're like, what do you really want? I said, well, I'd love to find the one, because that's the one thing, coming from what I told you earlier, if I had success, I couldn't have family, belonging, and those things. That was my old program coming from my father. So he sacrificed success to be with the family. Same thing with my grandfather. When he came back, he had nothing. So that same program perpetuated into me. And so I blocked myself from every relationship that could have blossomed. But in that training, I didn't understand that. Of course, not yet. But I understood that was the impossible in my mind. Because in my mind, I was like, I'm going to have a lot of success in life. I'm going to have financial success. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to do this for people. I'm going to do this for my family. But I was like, well, that means I got to sacrifice romantic relationship. But that's not the case. So in that very training, which is really, it was a great training. And we've actually taken that and improved it and iterated on it. So what we have now, because I wanted to give that experience to other people, right? So I answered the question. I said, I want to find the one. Because if I can do this impossible thing in my mind, then anything's possible. Because I never shared this publicly. I didn't think it was possible to find the one. And it wasn't because I saw major flaws. Sure, I had insecurity, just like most people normally do. However, it was that deep subconscious program that I was like, I can't have love if I want success. And that was a deep, not conscious program. So when I answer that, my mind, everything in my body was like, no, you can't do that, because then you wouldn't have the success you want. But the crazy thing was, during that training, literally the next day, they resolved that. So all the years that I set goal to find the one, I took the same level of action. I'm not a guy who sit around and do nothing. I'm a massive action taker. I took the same amount of action, but that year it was smooth, it was easy, and literally, before I was even done designing her on the spreadsheet, she broke up, right? It was around that time she broke up with her fiance. I didn't tell her to. I didn't know her at all. And so to me, I was like, okay, this goes beyond the physical. There is something beyond the physical that I didn't understand. But can I replicate this? Now, coming from an engineering background, I was like, if I could repeat this, then I have a possible way of scaling this. And so I thought, okay, can I design my ideal clients? Can I design my ideal business network, my friendship, my social circle? Investors, right? And I can't tell you how blessed I am over the years, the kind of people that have entered my life, the most magnificent people. And, sometimes I think about it. I'm like, wow, this is worth being emotional over, of just the amount of wonderful people that entered my life. I find myself being the most blessed, even when they thank me. So over the years, these people that I've designed, they show up, they show up, they show up. And I was able to prove not only to myself, but in general, this formula of how you can design what you want isn't enough. It's when you learn how to resolve those thousands of programs that are blocking your new design. Because you design, right? Earlier I mentioned you can have a new goal, new design of what you want, but if you have 1,000 programs blocking you, you're not going to get there.
Doesn't matter.
So you got to remove this. So I piece the programs together, remove all the fluff in the personal development industry, and I'm like, how can you design? And then how can you resolve and remove the blocks, which allows the most outrageous of dreams to come true without necessarily waiting for decades. It could happen, like for me, in 5 months, I found the one. And I was an amateur. Now, 10 years later, thousands and thousands of people that we've worked with, intense cases that we've solved, we have the formula perfected, because the next step after resolution, if someone's willing to make a full decision that they're going to get what they want, and there's a final step, which I can share later, but if they make a full decision, they're going to get what they want.
Whether it's a spouse, how about business-wise, revenue goals?
Now, I can't make any financial or performance promises.
No.
I've never seen it not work.
There you go. Do you have any live examples of a business case share with the audience? Not details, not revenue, but where a business was going out of a couple or a man was going out of business, and they brought in the program, and based on your teaching, they were able to turn around XYZ time frame, or anything with time. But I think that people often talk about the time.
Yeah.
For me, for the longest time, William, I used to think, okay, for me to make 6 figures while growing up in Brooklyn, you have to be a doctor, or an engineer or lawyer. I had that thought process, my friend, in my head until the stroke happened when I was 35 years old. And I almost had to die to kill that thought process. For example, the Matsons, I think in 5 years, they've been able to take that company from 0 to where they are.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends that know their case and like, no way they did something illegal. There's no way they can go to that level in 5 years. So time is often a question people say.
Time is an illusion, my friend.
Unpack that.
Inside of our minds, there's a formula. Most of us are not conscious of it. We think effort multiplied by time equals the outcome. But that formula is flawed because they're ignoring the design, the resolution that I just mentioned, the full decisions, because most people make half-assed decisions. So half of them is against themselves, half of them is going for the goal. And now they don't even have a design, so they're fighting themselves for no reason, right? And then on top of it, they don't have training, they don't have the skills. They may have skills to make money, but they may lack skills on other things. Being genuine, right? People don't trust them. They wonder why investors don't give them money. Or maybe they're too genuine for everyone. They don't have a filter. So it could be a million other things that are these so-called soft skills, but there are mathematics behind them. So you calculate based on your goal what kind of skills you need to install. Then all of a sudden, you can dramatically decrease the time, because time is just there to compensate for what our minds are not doing. Compensates for the blockages that we're not willing to remove. We are like, we just write it off. Time will resolve this. Yes, time will if you will, right? Otherwise, people can live their whole life not resolving it and not getting to their goals. So time is just a way for people to procrastinate. There's no such thing as, it takes a certain amount of time. The greatest of miracles in business, personal relationships, and health and beyond can occur within very short amount of time, or even instantaneously, because someone designed what they want, resolve the blockages, make a full decision, not a half-ass. The worst thing in life is making a half-ass decision. It's like driving a Ferrari with 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake, right? John loves that analogy.
He said it today.
Right? Yeah. And so it's terrible. It doesn't work. And most people don't know that. They're pulling themselves toward and away from at the same time. So when you resolve those things and you upgrade their skills, they become unstoppable. Time is just, I mean, time's for the peasants.
I made a faux pas the other day. I'm driving home with my daughter, and we own a business. We're opening a second office, and stress, of course, is there. And she's like, "Oh, mommy was very mad." I go, "Yes, but mommy's a little stressed." And I go, "Baby, remember something in life. You have to work really hard, and stress is going to happen to achieve great success." And I'm saying that to her, like your voice came in my head, like that's not something I should tell her. That's false. But that's the story I bought into. That's the story that 90% of people, billions of people.
Our civilization is experiencing a transformation. We've gone from the old days of literally hard labors, right? And whatever version of history we've been taught, right? There's some awareness that for a long time, we were relying on physical strength, physical energy, right? And then fast forward, all of a sudden, we went from horses to cars during Industrial Revolution, right? And then all of a sudden, look at us now, right? AI, quantum computing. It's going to defy physical effort. And our society and technology is moving that way. It's a sign of our mind actually collectively upgrading. But the problem is, this collective upgrade does not mean the individual's lives are going to improve if we're not choosing individually to upgrade. What this really means is the wealthy are going to get wealthier.
Yeah.
Those of us who don't upgrade our minds, AI will outpace us. Yesterday, ChatGPT 5 launched. It is PhD level on all fronts. ChatGPT 4, the day before, was just a college level. Like if you were asked to write an essay or marketing material, it's good. It's hit or miss. It's college, freshman, sophomore. Maybe if you're lucky, trained it well, senior. But now we're talking about PhD expert level on all subjects. I tested it immediately when I had access. Mind-blowing, right? Now, well, that's just a year and maybe 4 months. What happens in a year and 4 months will not only shock humanity, it will outpace those who, right now, so many people are thinking, oh, I'm fine. I'm still needed. But I don't think that is do we need humans? I think it's, are the humans willing to upgrade themselves? Because as a society, technologically, and the most elites are upgrading. The rest there will be a huge gap if the rest of humanity does not upgrade.
That's scary. Scary for those that are not working and improving themselves.
It's a beautiful opportunity for us to be able to provide to people, right? And yes, it can be scary for some.
I had to almost die to realize that I can design my life, right? But like a lot of us don't go through that. And I feel the system is kind of designed to keep us, some people, in control. Your friend, Sean Whelan, I had on my podcast.
Oh,
Lions,
nice.
Not Sheep. I saw you spoke on his keynote a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just with me in Monaco.
Oh, really? He was there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And his brand, Lions, Not Sheep. That's kind of correlates to life right now. Most of us are sheep. Are we doing that by design or by our ancestors passing it down? My question for you is this. If a person, go back in the direction. Does God, spirituality play into this?
Depends on what this is an operating system, right? So it's like, hey, if I have an iPhone or Android, does God play into it?
We are taught to pray to something external and that God is in control for us. Then came along this law of attraction manifestation where you design your reality. And then this is my opinion, but then the new thing I'm hearing is co-design. So if everything is mathematical and engineering and where you design this, I don't need anything else then, just by myself.
If we were to say that if we were to say that God exists, why would he not abide by mathematics and the beautiful sciences that we've uncovered that, exists? But here's the thing. Reality is oftentimes what people call objective reality is not objective. There's no objective reality because the observer has such an impact on what's being observed. And our mind filters anything that doesn't belong or doesn't match and align with our existing view of the world, right? So the answer about God or not, like if I say yes, it could be true, but it could also be not true. If I say no, it could be true, it could also be not true. It's not so much a yes, no, it's more of a can yes and no exist at the same time. Again, in simpler words, it's an operating system that exists in the mental level, has a lot less to do with the spiritual. It has a lot to do with the physical, but a good way to understand it is that they're separate layers, although connected. Think of it like this. Does your Mac computer or Windows, when it connects to the internet, right? So when you think about, do you use Mac or Windows or Android? Like, what do you use?
I use Windows for my laptop at work and Android for my cell phone.
Now, let me ask you, does the internet exist?
Yes, it does.
Does you having Windows, Android, or Mac influence whether God exists or not?
No.
Does it influence the internet existing or not? Now, it's a trick question because if you have a software block,
you can't
access the internet. So does God exist? I think it has a lot to do with, at the same time it's separate, but at the same time it's like, do you have a software block to connect with the infinite? And how do you label the infinite, right? So we're very much a programming company for the human mind rather than...
It's spiritual.
Yeah. It's not spiritual. It's how do you program your mind so that you can route data in so you can create the reality you want? Because everything's data.
It's incredible, man. I mean, it's like blown away when you break it like that. So let's break it down to a person who wants to come out of college and get into business. You often talk about designing. You gave an example of when you came back from Monaco on one of your podcasts, like when you design a destination, you need to be very specific. How specific do you need to be with your goal, the end goal that you want to get to?
The earlier, the better in terms of design. So here's the cheat code. Being specific is good, but the earlier you start the design, the better. So if someone can start designing by the age of 12 or by the age of 7, they're going to have a leg up. In fact, they're going to have exponentially more advantage than someone who designs at age 22 when they graduate.
43, like myself.
Now, here's the good news, is that time is, again, an illusion, so you can catch up. However, of course, the earlier, the better still, right? So I would say designing the ideal college experience, designing the ideal high school experience, all of those can impact, because the question of what do I do now when they graduate college, it's kind of late to ask that question. Most people are like, oh, you're fine. You're barely 18. You don't need to worry about what you're wanting to do. I'm like, by the age 6, you should be considering what you really want your whole life so that you can have time to craft all the way through high school, all the way through, elementary, high school, and then college. And if you haven't crafted it, well, it just happens later, right? So the earlier, the better, because if you leverage college as a social experience to build relationships, so you know who you need to have relationships with, you know how to identify future business partners, future investors, you're going to have bonds that, first off, started in college or high school, rather than you just pitch them because you need money 30 years down the road.
Okay, so earlier is the better. Number one, I have 2 daughters. I have a 7-year-old and 8-year-old.
Perfect time.
You have kids. You have 2 daughters and a boy?
Mm-hmm.
How old are your kids?
6, 4, and 1.
Okay. So you, I'm sure, topic is very prevalent in your home with the kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's natural.
It's natural.
Yeah.
Okay. So early the better. Now, when a person is, let's say, 43 years old, I own a clinic. I run the clinic. I want to open X amount of clinics across the U.S. Do I need to be very detailed, specific how many clinics I want to have?
You need to be very detailed on that and the reason why, like the rewards, the outcome, how that'll make you feel. Because results are about resonance. Most people can't program that. It's not so much what you think or the visual even. Yeah, that's important, right? That's why people built vision boards. But the most important part is how you feel when you have what you design. So if you don't feel like, oh my gosh, this is what I want, your mind's not gonna actively create it. So oftentimes you need to design something that's enticing or design something that has an enticing reward attached to it or enticing consequence.
You can feel it, and you feed the emotion to your mind. If I was to get to that point, 5 clinics, this is how I feel.
I'll give you an example.
Please.
So let's say you want 5 clinics.
Yes.
You would, of course, want to map out 5 clinics, 25 clinics, 100 clinics,
Right.
2,000 clinics, how each stage would look like. But you would want to slice one moment in time, how you would celebrate the moment you get there. And the question is very simple. How will you know when you've gotten there? What's the last thing that has to happen so you know you got it? That moment basically is a fork in the road. How will you celebrate? So if you can map out that logic and then map out what happens after as a celebration, map out the joy that you bring to yourself and your family, map out the opportunities you're going to bring your family because of what you have accomplished with 5, 25, 50, 75, 100, 5,000, whatever number it is, you have a detailed design. Now, of course, then you go back in and get specific on the pixels. Oh, here's what the clinic's going to look like. Take your family on a vacation just to look for future sites of the clinic and not just act as if. There's a big problem out there. People are like, just act as if, and you'll get it. Act as if is just like having one goal, but then you still got 1,000 things you haven't resolved, right? So you need to not act as if not. Meaning you need to not act as if you're not going to have 25 clinics. You need to not act as if you're going to have 5,000 clinics. Does that make sense? There's a double negation in there. It's a little tricky to think about, but it's like, how do you not act in a way as if you're not going to achieve your goal? Now you can start to resolve stuff and become aware of the things that you need to resolve.
Act not like how you would act if you get the amount of clinics you want to get.
So I'll say it again.
Yeah.
It's not just act as if you're
What that means right now in layman terms, it's law of attraction, it's law of assumption, right? Act like you're the CEO of a company, dress like it, act like it, talk like it. You'll eventually become it. That's what they sell you, right? You're saying don't do that.
No, I'm saying do that, but you need to not act like you're not the CEO.
Oh. Okay, wow.
Because most people act as if, but then they also act in 1,000 other ways.
That they're not the CEO or a founder of whatever that your goal is to be.
They're not a millionaire. They're not successful. They're broke. And that 1,000 other ways is what they have been, right? So if you don't remove it, and most people don't have the skills to remove it, right? That literally is what we spent millions in the last decade figuring out how to systematically, efficiently, effectively yank out of people's mind and system. So their nervous system no longer acts in a way that conflicts with their awesome goal.
Wow. You gave an example that you think you wanted to buy a truck and your wife said something to you, find a buyer, client, and you text a client one time. I think maybe it was both. Someone on the podcast, I heard it. You clicked a text a client and he bought the package right there.
Yeah, he actually interviewed me in one of the podcasts later on.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's one of the guys who interviewed me. Yeah, it's like short version of the story was, I asked my wife, "Hey, should I buy this truck that I really want?" And she's like, "When was the last time you bought something you want and not made more money?" And I was like, "Never." She's like, "Well, then you know what to do." So later on, when I bought the truck, same day, she calls me. It was 11 p.m. and she's like, "Where's the money?" And I was in a different state because I drove my parents somewhere else. She's like, "Where's the money?" And I'm like, "It's not here yet. I mean, it's 11 p.m. She's like, "Well, where's the money?" I was like, "Oh, she's holding me accountable." And we got to do that, right? Like if we understand that we design what we want and then we resolve and remove the blockages and then we make a full decision, we need to hold ourselves accountable. But ideally, our environment also help hold us accountable. That's why we went to Monaco, for example, for these trips. That's why we set our clients up in environment with each other that allow each other to hold themselves accountable. But the accountability side, and I'll say this last thing, it's not just, oh, have you done it? It's the natural subconscious expectation that you're in this circle, you're in this environment, this is what you do. This is what you do. You don't go to Ritz-Carlton expecting to eat top ramen.
So you make a decision. Number one, the first step in your protocol, make the decision.
Oh, no, not yet.
Oh.
You don't make a decision yet. We make it easy for people.
Yeah.
You design what you want,
Number one,
but you got to have some desire to design something.
start
Right.
with that.
Now, here's the thing, though. Most people wait till life sucks to design.
Yes, I'm guilty of that. But go ahead.
So the trick is
Yeah.
start designing when life is great, which goes against what most people subconsciously would do. They'd be like, my life is fine.
I'm
Why would
good."
I do anything? But that's what separates the real winners versus those who have, actually, let me be more clear. That's what separates people who have generational wealth and legacy versus, I'm going to use that very offensive term, the peasants. And this is not like, I'm not degrading someone. It's just their wealth will go as they go into their grave, whatever that is, right? In order to have generational, indestructible wealth, one has to design ahead of time. Otherwise, they're lying to themselves, right? And even if they're wealthy, if without design, it will go, right? It won't get passed down. And then they have to remove the blockages. Then they make the decision. And the reason is, and of course, you got to make decisions along the way, but this is a full decision, meaning 100% all-in decision on what they designed. Now they have no blockage. It's easy to make that decision. And the next step is they just upgrade. And this is the biggest leverage, because if they upgrade their mind, which is what we specialize in implementing, right? Then it decreases the time and effort. That's the formula.
Have a desire, strong desire, design the end goal and say, it's end goal, be all, we're going to go this direction.
Yeah, make a full decision. Because right now you might be thinking, I want 100 clinics.
Right.
But part of you is like, nah.
Yeah.
But you make 100% decision, everything changes. But you, of course, got to design it.
Right.
You got to make it easy for you to make that full decision by resolving stuff, right? And then you make a full decision. And the upgrade is what makes everything in the process easy. And it's a continual process.
It's called, there's a word I forgot. Limiting beliefs is another word you can decide. How do we raise our kids without having them?
Without having what?
Limiting beliefs.
Oh,
Of course, first, I should not have limiting beliefs. I should be the prime example for them.
well, I mean, I don't know what... Here's the thing, right? There's a way to define limiting beliefs. Because if I ask you, can you fly right now? You might say, I can't.
No.
And I could still label that as a limiting belief.
Right, that's true.
Right? So I don't think it's fully possible to not have any limits, because some limits, frankly, three-dimensional space and world, the boundary of our body, these are all limits. So limits are there to create definition. It defines our reality. So I don't think it's possible to be in this defined reality to not have limits. That being said, how do we leverage the limit, and limit what? And how do we teach that to our kids? So instead of saying, hey, you can't do more, it's like, well, how bad could it be? Listen carefully. This is for the listeners. A lot of people are like, oh, how bad could it be? Right? They're thinking, oh, what if things go wrong? How bad could it be? Right? What's the worst thing that can happen? They're going there with their mind, right? Instead of saying not having limiting belief, we just tilt the other direction and say, how good could it be? How happy could you be? What if you get too happy? What if you have too much money? What if you're too healthy? What if your relationship's too perfect? How grateful would you be? Notice that feels different when you ask that. And you can ask your children, like, what if you have a perfect high school experience or middle school experience? What if you just live a fantastic life and everything just goes so well and you're so lucky and you only have wonderful people entering in your life and you don't even know what your friends are talking about when they complain about anything else other than your wonderful life? What if your life is just amazing because of how you're brought up, because of how you choose your friends, because of who you are? This is programming. So what I just did right there is planting a bunch of suggestions. And as you listen to that, you're like, well, yeah, what if my life is like that? And if you pass that on, that becomes a packaged program. But now it's not just doing it once, although it could have huge impact. Imagine doing that 24/7, before she falls asleep, before they fall asleep, when they wake up, when you see them, when you have lunch. Over the course of the next 7 years, they're going to feel that everything in this world is for them. And they're going to be sharp about it, but they're going to filter out bad, naturally unpleasant experiences. Not saying that it will be perfect, but they will dramatically decrease those. Because I'll tell you, a lot of people complain about running into people that they want to fight with. Like they're starting a fight on the street, or they're having a negative experience over there. This business deal's going wrong. I'm like, I only have great people in my life. Why is it that I really enjoy every one of the people I do business with? I've literally never had a person that's not wonderful that I do business with. And every one of them I cherish. Every one of them I'm still friends with. How is that possible? Because you make a full decision after you design them. And if you don't have what you want yet, you remove the problems inside, and you make a full decision. I only have great people doing business with me. You're never going to get screwed. Your mind is the ultimate filter. So, in simpler words, it's not so much limiting beliefs or not, it's the boundaries you set for their reality. How will you define their reality is how you should describe their reality. Because what you say does not describe. What you tell them about their reality does not describe. It defines, especially at this age.
Because it's still forming that part of the mind, correct?
Yeah, even people that are in their 60s are still forming their reality. Every moment we're refreshing. So, I mean, we had people, experts, that worked in various high-level government agencies or different things. If they come through a training, they're like, oh my gosh, I see the world in a whole new way. People are still learning no matter what age, right? You got to make it enticing, and it's truthful, because what you describe becomes your definition.
What you describe becomes the definition. Wow. NLP.
Yeah.
I dabbled into a little bit. I had another guest who does NLP in overseas, and great guest sharing me how it's helping that part of the world. You're NLP certified, correct? Like
Yeah, I'm a master trainer.
Like there's only 5 of them. You're like one of the 5.
There's quite a few.
Okay.
I mean, and there are different boards, and there are different levels. Some people did an internet certification, and they're all of a sudden someone NLP certified. So it's hard to tell who's really legit. It took me about 7 years to get what I got, and I had to be at a lot of trainings, taught a lot of trainings in NLP. That being said, NLP is wonderful. It doesn't it's easy to learn about. It's not always easy to master.
That's true.
And that's like a lot of things, right? So to master it, this whole system, I mean, I think NLP is magical. That being said, it's like learning coding, like computer programming. But in the age of AI, do you really, I mean, not saying that you shouldn't, right? Because we still teach NLP as part of what we teach, as part of.
Upgrade. It's
Yeah.
like it's a chapter, like an element. It's great.
It's infused into a lot of aspects,
Got it.
right? And so, because we can actually certify instructors of NLP.
Okay.
That being said, I chose to infuse our training with the most useful pieces of NLP that can be quickly installed. Because there are some really cool stuff that you don't need to know if you want to build a software nowadays with AI agents. You can build a simple app quickly with a prompt, right? Do you really need to spend 100,000 hours to learn different coding systems, database systems, how to compile them yourself? Probably not. You don't need to spend the next decade doing that if you have a prompt that you can just get what you want. We basically built the AI version of NLP. How do you create what you want with minimal effort? And here's how we do it. This is the secret. The reason modern software or AI can do these amazing things, right? Because when you download like ChatGPT, it's a portal into these amazing AI systems that can do these calculations, spit back the result, right? The package that you download is what you use, right? Same thing with apps, right? Whatever, like maybe you're learning a language, you download Duolingo or whatever other language apps you download. It executes inside of your system, but you don't have to build it. Same thing when you buy an iPhone or Android phone, you don't have to go learn how to solder to use it. We basically built these pre-packaged software for the human mind. So when they come to the training or leverage our consulting, we just install them. So they don't have to spend the next decade and spend millions trying to install something that only the most powerful thinkers and executives and entrepreneurs know. We can just install it.
Right now, you have 2 programs on your website. There's like an entry level and there's a higher level. Is that still the case?
Allow me to break it down.
Please.
So we serve 2 groups of audience. One are the people who want to build wealth. They may be in the midst of building wealth.
Mm-hmm.
They may be doing really well, but they're not where they want to be yet.
Okay.
The other group is people that have already built wealth and they want to preserve it. They want to be able to pass it down and not lose it, because most wealth disappear after 1 to 2 generations. So we built the psychological system that can be installed into their heirs and their offspring so that they can maintain wealth. Now, that's cool and all. Over here is also our passion. How do we take this and install it over here? How do we give people that are building new wealth the ability to not only build wealth, but not lose it on the way? Because guess what? Most entrepreneurs will either bankrupt or on the brink of bankruptcy many times. They just don't talk about it. How many entrepreneurs can't pay bills? How many entrepreneurs are stressed when payroll comes? I've been there, right? How many entrepreneurs will over leverage because it's their first time? They don't have family backing. They don't have $1 million credit line. They don't have it. They're going at it, right? That being said, they will go and build it and then they'll burn out. And they're like, what's the meaning of all the stress, right? So they'll get close to either losing everything or literally losing everything, and then they'll go build again. So many entrepreneurs will go this crazy roller coaster. So we have built a system that allows them to remove that roller coaster, that loop that reoccurs. And that costs more millions than people can imagine. Not to mention their sanity. Marriages, health, freedom of time. Yeah, everything.
How about a program for kids across the schools, across the world?
Yeah. It's not part of our core program,
Yeah.
but we have an Upgrade Academy. And it serves private schools. It serves public schools. And then there's even a teacher's program.
Do you still do live masterminds? Can I buy ticket and come to one of your trainings?
Yeah, for now, I still do. I still plan on doing them for the next 2 years.
Okay. What's the next one gonna be?
September,
Oh,
next
wow.
month,
Where is it? What's that gonna be? Where it's gonna be here?
right here.
Okay.
Yeah. You want in?
Buddy.
I'll sign you up right after.
We'll talk about it, see the schedule, but I would love to.
Yeah, the beauty is the program is not just a live mastermind. It's the ability to immerse, and we do the reprogramming, the installation. But then where the magic is when you combine that and the one-on-one consulting and reprogramming. So we assign a concierge programmer for every person who joins our, not entry level, but like any upper level trainings. We give them a concierge programmer. You can call them a coach, but they really are a programmer. So they would then install, remove along the way for the entire year as we reprogram them at events if they choose to come. So the events are complimentary. The reprogramming is really what they pay for.
Amazing. William, I think I took a lot of your time. Thank you so much for doing this, man. Like I was thinking we'll meet in Miami in October. Are you coming to Miami still in October?
I think so.
For another conference?
Yeah. I have to go and speak.
Okay.
There's an event.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But I was going to wait for that to happen, but thanks for our mutual friend David and John. We met here today. I'm like, once again, not to blow smoke up your butt, but man, like you're changing lives. You're, for me, one of our geniuses. Not many people talk about you, and I think you have a low profile. Your IG profile is not crazy. You're not putting money out there for ads. You're building this brand organic, one person at a time, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, I don't know if we want to blow up the brand.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because there are certain people that we serve. I don't need publicity.
Yeah.
It's not, there are people in this world that we serve. We don't even want to be known so that we can work with these people. So yeah, it's not so much how many people that can see us. We typically target those who are really building wealth, building an empire, and that's not the majority of the population. And those who want to preserve wealth in their legacy, which is even smaller, teeny percentage of the population. Because if we can help these, they will ripple the entire world in many positive ways.
I believe that. Okay, man, God bless you for what you're doing, Upgrade. Where can we find you, William? And where can we find your company website? What's it called?
Oh, it's called upgrade.com, spelled as UPGRD.com. Or they can find me on Instagram. That's where we do post organic content and some of the fun stuff coming from podcasts, some of the latest and coolest things that we develop, because we're constantly iterating. And so if you guys follow us on Instagram, you'll be able to see what we're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, William. Thank you
Pleasure.
so much.
Pleasure to